Welcome to SCOTUS Insider. This is Arellano v. McDonough, the first case of the 2022 term. Just a brief introduction. The purpose of this case brief is just to outline the main points of the case and the arguments. It's not about arguing who's right and who's wrong. It's just about kind of boiling down the main arguments of the case. And secondly, I have a website that's linked below that has a written version of this brief if you prefer to read it as opposed to a video. Additionally, it has links to the actual opinion, a video of the oral arguments that I made, as well as briefs for the petitioner and the respondent if you want to get really in-depth for this case. All right, so the brief, I'm going to go over the facts, the statute that's being argued here, as well as the arguments, the holding of the case, and the reasoning. So for the facts, Adolfo Arellano was honorably discharged from the Navy in 1981. He developed psychiatric disorders as a result of his military service when an aircraft carrier he was serving on collided with another ship. 30 years after his discharge, he submitted his application for disability compensation based on psychiatric disorders that were the result of his military service. The VA assigned the effective date for his benefits to begin as of June 3rd, 2011. So that's nearly 30 years after he was discharged from the Navy. And so the statute that's at issue here is, it governs how to calculate the effective date for when benefits begin. There's a main statute with 16 exceptions listed below it, and one of the exceptions is what they're arguing about in this case. So the main statute is as follows. The effective date of award for disability compensation to a veteran shall not be earlier than the day on which the VA receives the application for benefits unless specifically provided otherwise in this chapter. So that language is really important, and I'll come back to it later. And now the exception to this statute is as follows. If the VA receives the application within 1 year of the veteran's discharge, the effective date is the day after the veteran's discharge. So if you imagine a timeline and the veteran is discharged here, and there's a 1-year window, if the veteran applies for benefits within the window, then they get benefits for the previous year. They get retroactive benefits. If the veteran applies after this 1-year window, then the date that they start getting benefits is here, and they miss out on retroactive benefits. So that's what's at stake here. There's 30 years of disability compensation that Arellano can receive if he gets what he's arguing for, which is equitable tolling. So Arellano argues that the 1-year timeline should be equitably tolled to make the effective date the day after his discharge in 1981, because he was too ill to know that he could even apply for benefits. And then the respondent is arguing that equitable tolling is at odds with the text and structure of the statute. So really quick, what is equitable tolling? According to Black's Law Dictionary, equitable tolling is a court's discretionary extension of a legal deadline as a result of extraordinary circumstances that prevented one from complying despite reasonable diligence throughout the period before the deadline was passed. So essentially, the extraordinary circumstance he's arguing for is that he was too ill after this accident in the Navy to know that he could apply for benefits, and he's asking the court to begin his compensation benefits from the day he was discharged 30 years ago, as opposed to 2011. And the holding so this opinion was a unanimous decision written by Justice Amy Coney Barrett that this exception cannot be equitably tolled. And the reasons are as follows. Federal statutes of limitations are presumed to be subject to equitable tolling. However, the presumption can be rebutted. This statute contains detailed instructions for when a veteran is entitled to retroactive benefits. So since there's so much detail in other parts of the statute, it would go against the intent of the legislature to further change dates through equitable tolling. Section 2A of the opinion has, I think, the bulk of the arguments for this case. It interprets the text and structure of the statute. So again, listen to the last part of the statute here. I'm going to reread it very quickly and listen to the last part. The effective date of award for disability compensation to a veteran shall not be earlier than the day on which the VA receives the application for benefits unless specifically provided otherwise in this chapter. So this basically implies that the list is comprehensive, and it would go against the intent of the legislature to allow equitable tolling. Additionally, many of the exceptions and many of the other exceptions, there's 16 of them, are equitable in nature, which further indicates that the list is exhaustive. And the awards for other exceptions are consistently capped at 1 year, which indicates the legislature did not intend the awards to be greatly increased in any way. So basically, by seeing, and looking at other parts of the statute, you can kind of get the gist of what Congress was intending. And addressing Arellano's main argument that he was too ill to know he could apply for benefits, there's a different section of the statute that addresses this very concern, but it applies to disability pensions only and not disability compensation. So it shows that Congress had these ideas in mind, and it's not like that they just forgot to put it, in a certain part of the statute if they addressed it somewhere else. It just shows that the list is exhaustive and that they did not intend for these benefits to be equitably tolled, as in this case. And then Section 2B has other arguments. However, I think Section 2A is the main bulk of this opinion. So if you would like to read the rest of the opinion, the link is in the website below, as well as the oral arguments and the brief for the respondent and the petitioner. And that's it. So thanks for stopping by, and I will see you in the next case.